From a systems perspective, the way that we design and manage water today, is it really still fit for purpose? Are we fundamentally sort of out of step with some of the risks that we're facing? What are those risks?
Now, if you look at what we're doing at the moment, and one of the measures where we together look what we achieve, that's through the Sustainable Development Goals. And then the one for water is number 6, often called like that. And if you look at the progress that we're making there, there are some deep concerns that we are not meeting actually the objectives that we have set together. Now, that answer is maybe a little bit black and white, because I do think that there are a couple of developments that I think are very important. One of them, we're not in a stable situation. So things are changing. So it's not as if we're not making progress. No, I think some of the challenges that we are facing are going faster, actually, than we're able to make progress. There are a couple of things that I would like to highlight from the Sustainable Development Goals. One of them is about what we are getting at integrated water resource management. That's one method that we use to see how we can have this combined approach to our water resources and how we can partition and use them. And what we see is actually that we are only at about 50% at the level where we would like to be. Another very important part, water is strongly related to sanitation. If you look at one of the biggest challenges coming forward from the SDGs, is actually how do we achieve, especially sanitation in the rural areas. In Africa and large parts of Latin America as well, we're only at 20% of where we would like to be. So how can we get there? That's, I think, one of the main challenges. Thank you.
Great overview there to start with. Your Excellency, over to you. So if water is so essential, why do you think it really gets managed like a secondary issue until something breaks? And what exactly is that sort of biggest structural gap that you're seeing right now?
I guess the real question today is not whether we have enough water resources that are available to us. The question is merely about, do we have the right ecosystem around the water file that will enable the delivery of water to the customers safely, sustainably, affordably, to make sure that we are always secured from that particular angle. Allow me to share the experience from Abu Dhabi, and for the ones who know me, I'm still getting adjusted to the seat. I would like to give a very pragmatic argument towards water. To me, water security, water affordability is related to energy reliability and competitiveness in terms of the energy system. Water security is national security, it's energy security, it's food security. For people who comes from arid locations like the UAE and the Arabian Peninsula and the Middle East, we do understand that every drop of water will have a watt of energy behind it. Why are we under the impression that water is always available, water is always safe? Because there are orchestrators in the system who are doing their part right. Those are the regulators, the service provider, the innovator who are delivering the right technology. So we enjoy what we enjoy every day. What are we missing today, coming back to the question? I think an integrated system that combines energy, water, translate this to amenities of life, food security, and national security. That's the ecosystem. Second, let's stop planning water, especially when the conditions are right, in a way to take it as a given. What we need to do is to have one unified strategic framework that combines all the natural resources. Your only competitive edge today is availing the right water mix that depends on a sustainable energy mix. You need to combine those two. Water, energy, and food should not be competing for resources. It's not the case. They should be equal. They should be dealt with in the same criteria, according to the same criteria, and the same way that we deal with energy security. I want to reflect on a couple of more points that will help maybe the visualization of this ecosystem. Let's always appreciate the role of artificial intelligence, but there is one catch there. There is no artificial intelligence without digitalization. For you to be able to develop your own use cases, it's not an ideology, it's not an abstract. It's us being able to deploy the right use cases according to AI, only if we do have the right digital infrastructure, and we do have the right technologies that are on board. Allow me to maybe conclude with one point to answer this question. If there is one thing that I want you to walk away with from this discussion, prioritize efficiency in the water files. The most reliable and cost competitive water source is a water source that you generate from your existing systems because of efficiencies without the need of draining resources from the environment or building additional new assets. It's always innovation. It's always efficiencies, and it's always utilizing digitalization, technology, and AI.
So much to take away there, and such a great call to action as well. It really is. Back over to Dr. Eddie. I wanted to sort of stick with this theme of water insecurity. So when water insecurity actually hits, the impact doesn't actually just stay in the water sector, does it? It affects policies, social, economic disruption. Tell us a little bit more about what the impact has, that wider scale.
So I think what His Excellency already mentioned is that there is such a strong link with water uses. And of course, agriculture, energy, health, they're all very strongly combined there. I think what we're facing sometimes are disruptive changes that take place that we are not accommodated to. And that's where I think there is a challenge for us to face. It's not new. It's also in the history with the Mayas in Guatemala. They already faced that with a climate change that happened at that moment in time, and that they had to change their society. I'm not saying that we are going to face such a challenge again, but we do see that a number of changes, often related to climate change, are happening there with some extreme events we cannot cater for at the moment. And that's where I think we are depending then on what's coming out. And I think this nexus, what was just described about food, energy, and also water, is a very strong one. So if you break the circle somewhere, you will see that it comes back in other points. And that's where I think you see actually a strong link to the impact also on society. Just to give one example, which is related to food. If we have a shortage of food, then 1 year it's okay, a farmer can survive. The second year, he will run into problems. The third year, he will probably move to an urban area to find a new job, new income for his family. So and those are the changes that I think we are sometimes experiencing now in different parts of the world. And I do think international collaboration can help us to also overcome those situations. So I'm not saying that there is a very black future. No, I think there is a future for us also using the water, but we have to be careful about what we're doing, and I think that also supports what His Excellency was just saying.
So, Your Excellency, what do you think we really consistently sort of underestimate within these knock-on effects and those areas of social, the economy, and political disruption?
What do we underestimate? I guess we underestimate what we don't understand and don't see. I don't want to bore you with the same notions again, but in my mind, it's very important to acknowledge one fact. Let's not manage the water system of yesterday. Let's manage the water system of today, of tomorrow, and of the future. If I may also emphasize the role of the regulators and the technology owners here, it's very important that we don't take the notion of regulations, policy, ecosystem setting in a way that it is just something done as a law to manage the current challenges while being absent about what's going to come in the future. So maybe I reflect on 3 points. It's the right tools that will give you the visibility. It's the fit for purpose governance model that's full cycle, end-to-end, that enables the adaptation and the inclusivity of new technologies and new partners for the call to action. And the third, it's always having the ability to self-verify and recalibrate your methodology, because there is no one solution for a single challenge when it comes to water. It branches out to consumers' behavior, and I can draw on those programs that we have deployed in Abu Dhabi, more than 28 programs for today. But we actually shaped the consumption behavior, and we shaped peaks for those people who deal with water challenges by 22%. We have optimized more than 30% of consumption in many sectors. We look at 6 different sectors simultaneously at the same time to make sure we have the right strategy. So there is no way that you optimize the consumption at residences without looking at the agricultural sector, looking at your commercial sector to give them trust and reliability, focus on your industrial growth, our new champion, the AI, and after all, set an example as a regulator of those governmental utilities that utilizes water. Governmental sector is a good consumer of resources. Let's set an example, and that's what we have done. In short, if the technology is right, if the policy and regulation are up to speed, the ecosystem is going to make it, and people will adapt to that new challenge of water. Let's not call it scarcity, but water vigilance to have an optimal consumption.
Brilliant example there of exactly what you're doing. So I wanted to sort of move this over to Dr. Eddy, and sort of why do you feel that sort of institutions and policies are sort of very much struggling to keep pace in all of this? And what do we need to do for that leadership capability, for those policy frameworks? And as we mentioned, it's at consumer level at the same time as well.
So let me try to pick up on some of the things here. One is I really much appreciated this awareness. That's about demand management. Personally, I would be super happy if we can invite actually all our ministries of education to make, say, the value of water a compulsory part of the curriculum for primary and secondary schools. I think to increase the knowledge of everybody about why water is so important and what you can do with it. So that would be for me one of the other things. One of the other challenges that I often see is that I'm often talking with ministers of water resources. I don't have to convince them. They know what the problem is, they know what to do. But the challenge is to also convince the users that we were discussing before. So how can I get the Ministry of Energy at the table? How can I get the Minister of Agriculture at the table? And how can we sit together to see how we can best manage the water resources that we have in a way that we can indeed increase the productivity that we need? And I think that's the biggest challenge. The session after this one will be about the UN Water Conference that will take place here in December this year. And I think it would be super nice if for that conference we will not only get the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Ministry of Water Resources, but also those other ministries at the table. And I would be very happy if also we can add the Ministers of Education there, because I do think that if you want to look for a real transformative change, you start with young kids and involving and creating knowledge in them on how they deal with water. And if I may, there's an additional issue there. We have been talking about education for different purposes. But what I also see, I don't know, maybe you have read it as well. There was last year in Bloomberg an article saying that the next water crisis in the United States will be because of lack of professional workers in the water sector. And that's what I also see. I see a shortage, actually, of people that are willing and interested to work in the water sector. And I think we need them. We need them hard. So we need to make it interesting for them to work in the water sector. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Over to Your Excellency. What do we need to sort of collaborate and make sure that we can all work on this together globally? It's a global issue. So how do we get everyone at the table? What collaboration, cross-border collaboration do we need to move this forward, do you think?
Important point here, right? So maybe I give an example of certain events that have taken place late last year and this year. If I look at the discussion points in Davos regarding the natural resources, including water, same discussion in Abu Dhabi Sustainability Week on preserving the natural resources. Another discussion that I really liked about the fundamental deployment of capital for bankable projects in water, and many other events. They all agree on one fundamental foundation. There is no word shortage in capital, nor innovation, nor technology. It's the mindset and the understanding. I think to achieve the maximum that could be achieved, we need to believe in the challenge that's ahead of us, and we have seen the challenge. If I may, I want to share a story from the heritage of the UAE in Abu Dhabi. There is a system called the Aflaj system. كل حد يعرف الأفلاي. It gives a direct message to everyone who lives in this soil, cause it gives the relationship between human, water, and his land. 150 years ago, 200 years ago, the communities came together in Abu Dhabi, very basic life. but they acknowledge the importance of water because they have seen the need and they have felt the need. They developed their own transmission network called the fludge. And the fludge wasn't just a structure laying on the ground, taking water from a well, delivering it to a customer or a consumer. It was a mean of distributing water fairly across the community. People had to contribute, they had to build, and they had to exchange commodities to get more water. Today, our standard of living is different. The government is putting too much to support and make sure that water is secured, available, sustainable, and very affordable when it comes to different industrial growth. Coming back to this question, I guess agreeing on the fundamentals. SDG 6, for example, clean water, sanitation. I just came out of a discussion. Amazing discussion. I know, Chatham House rule, so I cannot disclose, but my intervention was simple. We all do agree on the targets because we can all articulate a target based on a certain need. What we are missing is the approach. What we need today, more engineers who do understand the technical challenges, researchers who can tell us how to best deploy technology to address the challenge, and let's not jump the gun by always assuming that AI is going to solve it for us. My challenge to everyone, go and develop your own AI use cases. Develop it in-house. We have done it in Abu Dhabi. Department of Energy has, I think, 3 to 4 use cases for water. We are trying to generalize it. We offer it to everyone who want to use it. And it can be as simple as utilizing Google Maps. I'm not advertising Google here. I'm not paid to do so. But what we're trying to say here, a simple tool can tell you how much water is in the soil by simple satellite images. It's just an example. Another tool is basically telling us today how much water is discharged through the wells that we have drilled. And it tells us our strategic reserve in terms of aquifer water availability, not only volume, but quality. Do I wish that I have those sensors everywhere in Abu Dhabi? Yes. Is it doable? Yes. The only reason that we haven't really deployed on that journey is for one simple fact. I'm sure deep in that there is a simpler, easier way that we can do it without having to deploy across a certain number of thousands of wells. So appreciate the role of innovation. And to close, if I may, I still have maybe a minute. Let's always develop people, appreciate the role of people. They are the ones who will set the policy, the regulation, develop the technology, set the digital infrastructure, drive efficiency. But more importantly, those are the ones who will be consuming the water. Those are the same individuals who will be using water for data centers and AI, deploying water in their commercial facilities. Let's always develop a baseline for behavioral assessment of our customers that are region specific, rooted back to your values as a community, and make always one fact right. The value of the whole will always be much greater than the sum of the parts if we put our utilities and resources right through the right ecosystem and governance system.